Hi everyone. Today I want to talk to you about some game development theory. I want to do a series of videos on this just to make sure that we're all sort of learning something new and seeing how games work rather than just sort of making games straight out and not having any idea about what's going on behind the scenes. So what we're going to start with is the basic game characteristics. There's three of them. There's length of the playtime of the game, so length. There's number of players, so how many people are playing the game at any particular time, or how many are capable of playing the game. And there's also heuristics, which is it's kind of like the rule of thumb of the game. It's like decision making and sort of cognitive thoughts about what's going on in the game. But don't worry, we'll come back to that in the future. So first thing we're going to look at is the length of playtime. Now, though it sounds relatively simplistic just to sort of list off a few characteristics, there's quite a few things to say about them, because the length of playtime is actually an integral part of any game that you play or even even know of. If everyone has an idea of how long a game is, because if you say you want to play a game or agree to play a game with someone, you always want to know how long a game is going to be. So whether it's a few minutes for something like Smash Bros, whether it's a few hours because you're playing more of a campaign style game, or perhaps days because you're playing an RPG with someone, or even years because you're doing a massive great session with Dungeons and Dragons or something to that effect. The length of actually playing the game is a really important thing to know, and it's also important to know that games development isn't just for those who play games for a very long period of time. So we're very used to the idea of like sitting down for a few hours perhaps to play a game, or have it and knowing that we're going to put in a certain amount of time to actually complete a longer game. So an adventure game like Uncharted or something, you can easily put 20 hours into adventure games, and that sounds relatively normal. But for someone who's not used to computer games or hasn't really been in that world, that sounds like a very, very long time to be playing a game. So one of the interesting things about playtime is it's not necessarily, I should say, part of a characteristic of the game. It's also a characteristic of the player. So the actual player puts a lot of how long a game is into sort of a game's playtime. So if we take something like Smash Bros or something, an actual game might last anywhere between 1 minute and 10 minutes, and different rule sets might prolong it or make it even quicker. It all depends on what you want from the game and what you're doing. So a very tactical game with lots and lots of toing and froing and looking for openings might take a long time. A very silly game where everyone's got master balls and just throwing like Dialga at everyone might only take a few seconds. Or you can put on super sudden death and it takes even less time. You might put on different rules where you take damage or knockback is reduced, so it takes even longer. So it's how you set up the game, and it's also what you take into the game, what you're trying to do with it. So whether it's tactical, or you're trying to do a rapid situation and thoughtful, what you want from the game will affect its playtime. So the actual playtime, length of playtime, is not just going to come from the game itself. On the front of board games they say things like 20 minutes plus. Well, that plus is there because they're assuming that you're going to play that for at least that time, and they don't want to dictate how long exactly it's going to take. They know that the players will bring extra things to the situation. So a good example is chess. Now I know we talk about video games development almost exclusively, but it's a good idea to look at other games and how they sort of feed into our game development thoughts. And chess, of course, is an absolutely historic game and great to use in this kind of thing. So chess generally is very tactical, so it can be quite a slow game, and even in a lot of championships they talk about having sort of a 2-hour fixed time per side. So even if you have got a clock there, you still got a lengthy amount of time to think about the decisions you want to take and everything to that effect. But of course there's another side to it, because some people don't like the idea of sort of waiting around 5 minutes per move, this type of thing. So instead they changed things to sort of speed games of chess, where instead of 2 hours for your total sort of move thoughts across a game, you might only have 5 minutes. So suddenly you're taking seconds per go rather than minutes per go. This is interesting. I used to run a chess club back in one of my old schools I used to work for, and because we only had 45 minutes or so, it was a lunchtime chess club, we never actually got to have that luxury, so we had to make up our own speed rules. And at the end, so everyone would have sort of the 5-minute rule where you only had 5 minutes to make all your moves. At the end of each session, we completely throw a lot of the rules to the wind, because we used to have something called the speed versus challenge. So the entire group was split into 2 groups of students. Everyone would take a turn in series, and you only had 3 seconds to make your move. So the entire class would be counting down 3, 2, 1. If you didn't make your move, then the other team got to have a go again. So length of playtime there is incredibly short, and it has a completely different take on what the game becomes. So length and playtime, when you change it, is also a really important thing to consider. And playtime also is sort of lessens or enhances the amount of other things. So a shorter playtime might force you to become more skillful more quickly. Random elements might come into it. You might feel there's a lesser or greater reward. So you might feel either rushed, or it's not worth the time you're putting in. Whether it's pleasing to watch, I mean, arguably, if you're doing a 2-hour per player move planning time, that's going to be a very, very slow situation. So there's lots of things to think about. Anyway, so for your first task on this, what I'd like you to do is think of a game, any game, so video game, board game, I don't mind what it is, and just slow it down and speed it up. What changes in those scenarios? So do the changes make it better? Do they make it worse? How does that happen? Is it a good idea? Would the audience find it more pleasing? It's a really interesting little take, and it just gets you thinking about how length of playtime affects things. Okay, that's everything for this very first video. We will continue with this. There's lots and lots more to talk about, but I think it's a good place just to stop so you can think about what we talked about and try that task there. Alrighty, I'll see you next time when we're going to talk about number of players and how that affects the game.